Hi, my name is Lori Keesey, and I am an author blogger. So excited to have a soul conversation with Pearl today.
Hey everybody, it's Pearl Chiarenza with Women's Successful Living, and you are listening to a Conversations with Pearl. And I am so excited to bring an amazing author to our platform today. And we're going to have a really fun conversation. We're going to get deep into some subjects, but I want you to get your pen and paper out because I think there's some things you're going to be able to learn from us today that you'll be able to take forward for yourself in your life, or maybe that friend that you just feel like a relative that needs to have some of the little tidbits that we're going to share today. So I'm so excited again to have our guest, Lori Keesey. As a kid, she wrote and illustrated a story about three puppies getting lost in a hatbox. She was hooked. She wanted to become a writer. And today, Lori has realized her goal with her recently released debut novel, Always Think of Me. Hey, Lori, welcome to the show.
Hey, Pearl, thanks for having me. I can't wait to start talking.
Yay! So let's talk about the little kid. Let's talk about so one of the things that's fun is that when we get talking to our guests here on the show, I always ask, when you were a little kid, so I'm going to ask you the question that I just think is so much fun because I feel like the answer always ends up leading us to where we are today, right? So as a little girl, for me, I always thought I wanted to be a teacher. And so as our listeners know, if they've been listening to us long enough, they know that I talk about how as I grew up, I didn't have the opportunity to go get that next level education to help me become a teacher. But yet, here am I today, and I'm coaching and teaching and pouring into women and helping to guide them through their bounce forward in their life and realize their potential of being that strong, happy, empowered, radiant, that original self, that Shiro, as we like to call it on the show. And so I would love to know for you, when you were that little girl, I mean, we already know you did the story with the hat box and the little puppies, but what was it growing up that you saw yourself, when I grow up, I want to be? And how does it compare today to what that little girl was thinking?
That little girl really wanted to be a writer. And I always felt so blessed because some people flounder and they can't figure it out. My big sister couldn't figure out. My little sister couldn't figure out. But yet I always knew. And I'm so thankful to that first grade teacher who encouraged me. She was the one who told my mom at a parent visitation day, honestly, that teacher had a big brown chair in the back of the room. I sat in that chair a lot because I was a talker. So, but I wasn't sitting in the big brown chair that day, and sitting there watching her talk to my mom and pointing to my story and telling my mom, I think Lori has some writing talent. You really need to encourage her. And then after that, it was like, oh, okay, someone believes in me. Maybe this is what I need to do. And after that, I would go to my grandmother's. My grandfather had a pharmacy, and back in those days, he was truly an apothecary. He would grind his own pills and, do that kind of thing. And he had this big thing of paper. It was like parchment paper. And we'd pull this thing out, rip it off, and then we'd fold it up into little pages. And then with my cousin, I would write these ridiculous little stories. And again, we'd illustrate them. And I still have one. And where the old tape marks are. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, Lori, this is horrible. I mean, awful, awful, awful. I mean, I had no talent at all, but I got the bug, and that's what I ended up doing, writing for a living.
I love it. I'm laughing for those that are listening. I'm like laughing and giggling on the other side while I have myself on mute because I could just see you being at brown chair, that teacher, every day being that talkator. I could just see Lori. You guys, I've talked with her once before coming on this show, and I definitely could see that. And I love that. It's you just gave the example that I talk often, especially to young women that have young kids that I work with. I'm like, everything you say or do in front of your child today, they are absorbing. You might not think they notice, but they notice things like how you react to stuff, how you respond to somebody, how you talk. They're going to soak that up. And for you to have that teacher that said, oh my gosh, to your mom, she's got this bug. You need to like help her, grow this and nurture this as much as you can because she saw that potential in you. And then here you are today, exactly what I said. It never fails. Those that are listening, if you listen to us often, you will see there's always something that correlates to as we get older, how that circles around. I believe, Lori, for me, I truly think that that's part of what I always, when I coach with my clients, I ask them, let's find that, what's that inner thing that you want? Like, what is that joy that makes you happy that you're not fulfilling right now? And so I always share that. I believe that, we come in here. So if you're listening, whether you believe in God or a higher being, whatever that belief system is for you, I believe that it's in your DNA when we're born. Like it's already been decided what's going to happen. It's already been decided. I too also believe when your dash is going to end. We don't know when it's going to end. That's why we need to live every life we can, but it's been decided. And so if you don't listen and if you don't hone that talent, like what Lori did with honing the talent of writing, then what happens is she'll do it just for herself. It's great, but you don't get fulfilled because you're not doing it for yourself. And then when you don't fulfill it and you bring it forward to those of us like myself who've been honored to receive your book, we can't be poured into. We can't learn from those talents that you have. And I love that you gave that example. And I love that you remind us again that we have to create and nurture those talents we have, because when we don't, we cheat ourselves, but you're truly cheating others. And I
Yeah.
love that you're doing that.
Well, it was funny when I was in high school. I loved to write. I was still writing. I was on the newspaper. I was the editor of the school newspaper and all that stuff. And I remember taking a class. It was English class, and it was getting into the nits and grits of grammar. And I don't know why grammar started not making any sense at all, but it didn't. And I worked on it, worked on it, worked on it until it started making more sense to me. But boy, you'll have moments when you start doubting. You're like, wait a minute, why can't I understand this? It's like for me with math, forget the math, but the words always came easily. So I had to muscle through that period. I almost literally, I was feeling so horrible because my papers would come back, excuse me, and I wasn't doing well. And the teachers, they see me and it's like, oh my gosh, I want to do this for a living. And I don't even have the basics, to write the language. So I got through. And I don't even know why that happened, but it
Let,
did.
let's
Maybe it was
talk
a
about
test.
yeah.
Maybe it
So
was a test.
it's probably yes. I was going to say let's talk about that. It probably was a test. It's also let's delve into that for a second, because it even in life, with things in life, like we think I've got this goal, and things
Mm.
we think we're on track with the goal, right? And things happen, a loss happens or something changes in health, or just things will come up, right? So how like learning to that no matter what, if that's your goal and that's your belief and that's your joy, how to stay focused and be aware and ask for help, right? So like your
Mhm.
teacher put on there, see me, right? And you those doubts come in. Like you could have easily said, well, I just can't do this, so forget this. I'm going to go figure something else out, right? So what are some of the tips you can give to somebody that's listening today that maybe, whether it's they're a writer, whether they're a speaker, whether just a mom listening to us at home that sometimes doubt what a great mom that they are, or a great employee that somebody is. What do you say to that person? It's like, I just want to give up. Like, what would you share with them?
Well, for one thing, I would say never give up. But I would also suggest that, some of these personality profile tests, I don't know if you use those in your practice, but they're amazing. I'll never forget my kids were sitting around the kitchen and they can't figure out anything. I said, well, you're going to do a test. And lo and behold, every single one. The oldest son, he should have been a preacher or a disc jockey. I mean, he talked all the time. The middle one should have been a sales guy or a lawyer. Yeah, the lawyer would have been excellent because he loved to argue. And the youngest this is the sweet one. And that test revealed that he should be an elementary school teacher. And behold, that's what he is. For me, I was right on the money, girl. Right on the money. Writer. communications, was anything to do with that. And my husband, he was a builder. He is gifted with carpentry, and sure enough, it those tests nailed it. So if you're in doubt, and they're online, they don't cost anything. It might give you a good idea. That's what I always advise people. If they're feeling doubtful, they don't know what they want to do. I always say that. And of course, I pray. So I always pray, please show me the way, because I'm really don't want to navigate this alone. I don't want to screw up.
Yes, I love tests. So since you brought that up, we're just going to plug the test that I use here. I
Okay.
love that you do that with your kids because like it's so powerful. I sent the test to my brother and my sister-in-law. My brother's going through some health stuff right now. And I'm
Mm,
like, listen, take this because I can give you some things that help you work through the emotions
hmm
that you're feeling, right? And so
hmm
yes, we do. That's one of the things when I work with my clients, one of the first things we do is we actually take what we call a mental fitness quiz to see
hmm
where are they in that mental fitness? Because we know our brain is our best friend, but it can be our worst enemy as well. So if you're
Oh, yeah.
listening and you want to know where to take the quiz, get your pen and paper out. It's so simple. You're going to go to pearls with an S survey.com /PQ like queen quiz. So it's two Q's. So it's pearls survey.com /PQQIZ. So take that test and you will be able to see whether, like for me, I was high on being a people pleaser. I was a risk taker. I have some clients that are high achievers. Like they're not happy with that, award that they just got. They're like, okay, I'm done with that. I'm going to go get the next one. Right. So like,
Mm,
and then what we do with that quiz is like you said with your son, it would help to identify like where he should navigate for his career path. We take that quiz and we talk about how can we sage those thoughts and that saboteur and that judge that shows up and says, I'm not worthy. And especially a people
hmm
pleaser, we tell ourselves people aren't going to like us or they're going to think I'm selfish because I'm saying no. Right. So we work through those things so that we can help you to stay on track with what is that goal and vision you have. Like we were just talking about, like, what are some of the things you can do to help stay on track? And I love that you said too, I call it offer up, right? I call it offer up. A week ago, Sunday, I was back in Nevada. I was sitting in church and um, this lady was sitting in front of us. And I have an amazing nephew who's on the spectrum and he was a little twitchy. And so father wasn't preaching. There was nothing going on, but just some singing. And we were like, well, if you're that, he's like, I'm tired because he wanted to lay down. And we're like, no, you're in church. You got to sit up. He's like, I'm tired. I go, and I literally just whispered, well, I guess when we go home, you should go to bed early. The lady in front of me sitting in church turns around and shushes us. And I was like, okay, God, offer it up. I got to like bite my tongue here. Right. And so she just, and then what happened, the next thing that happened is when we went to give the sign of peace, she basically ignored us.
Well,
Totally,
that
yes,
wasn't.
that
Well,
look.
that's not cool.
So I
That's still
sat
not
there
cool.
again and I'm like, okay, God, you got to tell me what to do. And I just kept offering her up. I kept offering her up. Now, after I left, we went outside and I did walk up to her and I said, I'd like to know your name because I'd like to pray for you. My name is Pearl. You can pray for me, but I'd like to pray for you because for whatever reason you didn't feel like giving me the sign of the peace. I want you to know I'm thinking about you. And she just looked at me like I couldn't believe I did it. And she's like, well, I did. I'm like, I'm not going to argue with you, but you didn't. And you shushed us in church. So you don't know the situation. And so I just want you to know I'm going to pray for you. My name is Pearl. What's your name? She would not give me her name. So
Wow.
I just got in the car with my sister-in-law and she just looked at me. She goes, I knew you were going to say something. I said, I just offered to pray for her. you know,
Well,
but
it
the
probably
thing,
made her think. That's for
yeah,
sure.
yeah, for sure. And so,
Yeah.
the whole point of that is like to follow through on what you believe in. I believed what she did was wrong. I believe that shushing and without knowing that we don't know people's circumstances. You and I have talked about this before. We don't know what people are going through. We don't know that somebody has lost a child. We don't know that somebody's lost a job, their spouse is sick, or what's happening. So we
hmm
make these assumptions without getting to know somebody and just walking up going, are you okay? Can I help you? Can I
Right.
pray for you? Things like that. So I love that we talk about that reminder together with you today.
hmm
So you've gone and you've written a book about the puppies in the hat, and now you've grown up and you've got this new amazing book that you've written. And so let's talk about that book. Tell us the name of the book and tell us the meaning behind the book.
The book is called Always Think of Me. And here's a copy if people care to see if they
It's
can
such a
even see
beautiful
it.
cover.
It's an uncommon love story. When I started writing it, I didn't think it was a love story. That concept never crossed my mind. But an editor said, Lori, this is really a love story. It's about a 33-year-old party boy who can't figure out what he wants in life. He meets the woman of his dreams at an outdoor music festival. They forge an unshakable bond. When she leaves abruptly, he figures he's never going to see her again. But then he does. 1 year later, under extraordinary circumstances, he finds himself on a mission to stop her from doing the unthinkable. And through this process, he needs to face his own insecurities, his own reasons for feeling like a failure.
Okay, people are going to ask, is it based on a true story?
Yes.
And can we share who this true story is?
Yeah, the true story is the oldest son who should have been a disc jockey or a pastor. He was the
Yeah,
talker.
he
He
was,
was the party boy. And he
yeah.
passed away 6 years ago in a tragic accident. And though this book is not about him per se, the primary character, a guy named Tyrus Cal, TC for short, is based he's a muse. My son was the muse to create this character. You know, his appearance, the way he was, his ability to make friends, his ability to kind of get he understood human nature, and he didn't go anywhere where he didn't end up being the center of attention or making a new friend. And and when he passed, I it was very hard. I mean, you've experienced this, you know what it feels like. And I really started thinking, okay, what am I going to do with this? How do you make, the cliche, making turning lemons into lemonade. What am I going to do with this? And then that's when the concept of the book took root. And one of the large themes is that we all have a purpose. It doesn't have to be a big purpose. Little purposes. It's like we have one body. We have all these parts. Not one is more important than the other. Just like our missions in life, not one is more important than the other. And I really wanted to drive home that point in this novel. And at the time I was started writing too, there was this gigantic uptick in suicides. And I'm thinking, my gosh, I can't even imagine a young person taking his or her life. I can't imagine it. And I'm thinking, well, if they understood their own specialness, if someone had lifted them up and encouraged them, maybe they wouldn't be making this decision. You can't take that decision back. And it broke my heart. It really did. Even this day, this is what been 5 years ago, especially during the COVID years. All the things that happened then. Oh my goodness. Our mental health. I mean, it breaks my heart. People have a reason for being. We're not random.
Yeah. I'm, like what you've done is to take something so tragic and turn it into something that can maybe pour into somebody else, right? And
Right.
hopefully, and who knows, even save somebody's life, right? I think it's really, that's one of the things on this grief journey that I have found too. People will say, "Pro, you're so strong. Like, how do you share about it?" And I'm like, listen, getting up every day ain't easy some days. Some days
Yeah.
I just want to be like, like the other day I walked the dogs outside and I was like, oh shoot, Matt's birthday's in a couple weeks. Like it just like hit me, right? And so it's like,
Yeah.
I get overwhelmed with tears. But again, I don't hold it back because I really believe that we have to let the waves come and let them feel it and let it, and in some ways I feel like too that, when I have those waves, I feel like Matt's there. Like he's here. He's holding me up, as I'm going through it. But to so many people, like you said, get stuck. They get stuck in the grief. They don't know what to do. They feel like there's no life because that loved one, especially a child, is not here any longer. And I was talking with the girl who runs our grief group. We meet once a month, and we were having a conversation about. She's like, I just don't know what to do. We have some people that are just like kind of stuck. They don't want to understand that life is still going on. It's happening all around us, and and like we both agree, we each have to, everybody's grief journey is different, right? Everybody will either let it cripple them and hold them on that day, that time, that minute that they found out, or they'll find, like you done, a purpose, and like I'm doing with Matt's story, is finding a purpose, and or let it be the purpose for living. Because like you have other children. I have a son too that's getting married in October. There's good things that are still happening
Hmm.
around us. And some of my friends like, how do you do it? I'm like, because I know that Matt, saw me finally figure out who the heck I was. Like, I didn't get stuck behind wearing my titles of mom and volunteer and all this stuff, that I finally figured out Pearl is somebody who's here. Like you said, we have a purpose here. My ripple in this world of life has got to, move forward as a wave in some way. And so because of that, I continue to live my life because him and my son Nate saw me start to achieve that. But then also because I have this amazing husband I've been with for 40 years. Well, I'm going to sit and not move, and enjoy that the rest of the years we have together. I have a 60th birthday coming up. I'm excited about that. And then I have a son getting married. Like, there's good things still that
Hmm.
go on. And our loved ones would not want us to sit. And for me, God is not saying, okay, I put you on this earth for you just to sit when I make something bad happen in your world. No, something I always say, and if you're listening to us and you've lost a child, just know that we totally understand. And our journey is definitely different than anybody's journey that's listening to us. But I just believe that for some reason, I have to take the story of what's happened in our world and why Matt's left us at 25 years old and do something with that, and from like you, we're doing a book. Matthew was born of our hearts. He was mixed race. He was the only mixed race child, not only in our family as an adoptee, but also in his biological family. So he struggled with that. So he had always wanted to do a book on raising children of a different culture. So we're doing that. We're trying to
Yeah.
put together 25 families, and so taking like what you did and paying that forward, is so, so important. And I want to circle back around, like you said, about mental health. That's one of the reasons why I started doing this mental fitness coaching is, like you said, like through COVID, I started my little community called the Shiro League because I saw women kind of be like, oh my gosh, I'm having to work from home. I now have to be my kid's teacher, and I did not want to do homeschooling and or be a teacher in my lifetime. I have my spouse home all day long or my partner all day long with me. And while I love them, I don't know that I want to be around them all
Hmm.
day long. And then, I have to run this household too. I need a Calgon take me away moment, but I'm not allowed to go anywhere. So what do I do? So I created this Shiro League. And so it was a 30-day self-care kind of challenge. Every day you had to do something for yourself. We call it the glow up challenge now. And so when it was finishing up, all the ladies were like, we can't just stop. What else are we going to do? So we just kind of created this community and it's grown to something amazing. And so some of those things are part of my purpose,
Hmm.
but like you said, mental fitness is so, so important. And I feel like we're talking more about it now because of COVID, but I don't feel like we talk about it enough. I feel like there's still a little taboo around it, especially for men. So if there's a man that's listening, I feel like sometimes you and I talked about it before we hopped on and started recording that, sometimes men aren't open up to going and talking with somebody and asking for help because they feel like, oh, I'm the tough guy. I'm not supposed to. But that's even more reason to ask
Hmm.
for help. And it's okay to have a coach or a therapist, somebody in your life that you can go, hey, Lori, can I talk to you because this and this and this is bothering me, right? I'd rather you do that than like Lori's book says, doing something that's permanent because you can't
Right.
take that choice away. And
Hmm.
so on this book that you've written, Lori, what are some of the things you're hearing about it and how, like, tell us also how we can find the book, but what are some of the things you're hoping that comes out of this book?
Well, I've gotten comments, reviews, and th- they make, how do I say this? I am so happy that many of the folks who write reviews are saying this book did this, this, and this. It was poignant. It was thought provoking. These are exactly the things I had hoped, that, yes, you're going to be crying, you're going to be laughing. It's like the big spectrum of emotions and just, I always loved interesting characters, and they comment on the characters, and it was like that is just so heartwarming to people are actually seem to be grasping what this book was meant to do. And it just makes me feel like I didn't do something that I wasn't supposed to do. That this had a purpose. This book had a purpose, and it's achieving this purpose. For some, not all, I'm sure. And I've also heard that some people believe it triggers them because we're dealing with some hard issues, some huge personality disorders like narcissism, and the devastation that someone will have because of a relationship with someone who only thinks of themselves, but is far worse than that. And just the concept of suicide and drug abuse and all the things that we're seeing in our society today. And I hope I answered your question because I started rambling, Pearl.
You didn't have ramble. You did perfect. I love that you're already hearing from people some of the changes it's
Yeah.
helping in their lives. And for those that maybe it's triggering, it maybe I know sometimes it's hard to read about the subject matter because whether you've had something in your life that's done it, maybe it's something you had tried to attempt before. But I think it's very good that somebody who feels like, oh my gosh, it's reminding me of my behaviors, maybe it'll empower them to do something for those behaviors as
Yeah.
well. That was one
I
of the
had
things I thought about too in reading it.
Yeah. One commenter did specifically mention that, evaluating myself. So that's cool. I mean, I love books where I'm going, whoa, boy, do I need to think about that. Very, I think that's why you read. You read because you want to escape. And I love thrillers and those types of books, but I also like those with a very strong theme, the reason for the book, and it's clear what it is. It's not this artsy fartsy type of thing that I don't understand. And as for where you can get it at Amazon and Books a Million and all those other places. So that's where you can get it.
It's awesome. So what are some of the future things with the book you're hoping to do with the book? Like what are some of your plans with the book to one, get more attention, get more people to be aware of the book, but two, what are some of the things that you would like to see like come forward with the book? I mean, some people do summits when they do their book, some people do, webinars with their book, some people just go and do a sort of a book signing / educational moment with them and things like that. What are some of the visions you have for the book?
I would love to do. I have a book club tomorrow. It's a Zoom event, and I would love to do more book clubs because then you can really get to know folks, and they're asking questions, and you can engage, and you're sitting in the comfort of your home, and you're not traveling all over God's green earth. So that I would really, really love to focus on doing that. Of course, book signings and that sort of thing. But I've also started writing a sequel to this book. And so in July, my husband and I are doing it's this, this is, I can write this off on my taxes. Yippee. We're traveling across the country and we're following the course that one of the characters is taking from Atlanta, Georgia to Nevada. And then, I've never, I have flown into all kinds of airports, but I don't really know what it looks like when you're traveling, through Oklahoma or let's say I did drive through New Mexico and Arizona, but you know what I'm saying. I just don't know what the terrain looks like. And I really want to see what my characters would be seeing as they're driving. So just meet people, maybe get some more blog post ideas because I do a blog called The Accidental Blogger and I write about overcoming adversity. So maybe meet some people who have a story to tell. So those are my ambitions. It starts July 7th and we're coming back at the end of July. And I'm really looking forward to it because I've never done anything like this.
That is so much fun. It's so cool that you're like going the path of your character. So if you go to Nevada, I'm going to tell you, you have to put Virginia City on your
Okay.
list. It's so cool. People think Nevada, they think Las Vegas, right?
Right.
But Dayton and Reno area, which is the area that my brother and his family are from, it's such a cool area. It's very high up. Like I just left there last week. So what are we in the middle of June? There's still snow in the mountain.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
so pretty. They're outside of Tahoe, but Virginia City is Mark Twain. So since you're a writer, it's Mark Twain's birthplace. And
He was born in Virginia City?
yep, and
Really?
it's an old little country western Western town. And then it will
Wow.
be a little warm, but the Catholic church, you'll have to go in and see it. The stained glass in this Catholic church was just amazing. We went before, like I said, before I left to come up here, because when I go back to visit, it's going to be really hot. So they
Hmm.
don't have AC in there. So
Right.
it's like we went early in the first, before the heat was coming in, and it's so pretty, and you just get this amazing view. So have your character take a little Western detour.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, the basic plot line is formulated in my head. I just don't know the um
Yeah.
the
It's
actual things.
I love that you're taking that and you're doing, like, looking at the next thing, like what can I do next? And oftentimes when we're talking about, like, especially adversity, like, you, like me, being a grieving mom, sometimes that's the biggest adversity, and it's the one we wish on nobody, to have
Yeah.
to learn to live life with the loss of a child, right? And so finding things like what you're doing and making it fun, like going, this life, but for whatever reason, you and I, this path we're on, it's been chosen. What can
Hmm.
I do with this? What can I do to continue to enjoy my life? While I still have this piece of my heart that's missing, I still, like we were saying earlier, I still want to live and do more, and make that ripple effect in the world. And I love that you're finding that path of doing that. And I'm so excited. I cannot wait. We'll have to have you come back on when you release the second
Oh,
version.
that would be fun.
That will
That
be
would
a
be
lot
fun.
of fun. And I love that you're talking about book clubs too, because even in my little community, I actually shared it with the book. We have a book club here. I've not been able to be part of it yet because of my traveling, but they do a book club, and I share. I'm like, hey, you guys should check out this book. So if you hear from a Winthrop or Mary Gonzalez, that's from me. But
Well, that would be fabulous. And those who are listening, if they have book clubs, they can go to my website, Lori at LoriKeesey.com. There's a contact button. Well, I can give you my email address too. It's
yeah, we will
Lori.
put all of that in the show
Yes,
notes. So
yes.
yeah,
If you're interested,
LoriKeesey.com.
I will do those book clubs because
Yeah.
it is a awesome way to meet people, and everyone has a story to tell. And, maybe I'll meet someone whose story really that I think might resonate with people who read my blog. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a give and take. It's give and take.
Yeah, it really is. And I think it's awesome. It's one of the great ideas you're putting together. So let's talk about one of the big things that we talk here on the show about is about self-care, right? And I know for me, like before Matt passed, is taking time for myself. Like today, what I often talk about, especially when I coach with my clients, is that if tomorrow, that doesn't come for us, right? And all our family can say at our eulogy is what they saw we did for self, not what they saw with a title, the volunteer title, the mom title, the wife title, the employee title, but what they saw you do for you. What would they say? And so, Lori, I want to ask you that question. If somebody had to ask you, what do you do for yourself if tomorrow you're not here and your relatives have to and friends, that's all they could say is one thing they saw you do for self. What are some of the things they would say that they see you do for you?
I would hope that they would see that I um, kept close to my friends. You know how separation, I live in Tennessee, my friends live all over the place, but yet we make a point of seeing one another. And sometimes you have to take the initiative. And I hope that my people would say, well, you know what? Friendships were important to her. And she went out of her way to make sure she saw the people she loved the most. That would be wonderful to me because that's what we need, our friends.
Yeah, that legacy that we leave behind is so important. And having friendship, like having those true friendships. I went to an event a few months ago, and Belinda, she said she was talking, sharing on stage, and she was talking about who are your front row people? Who's that person that's going to be there for you? My girlfriend Lisa calls it your balcony people, right? Like, who are those people in your life that are going to be there, and they're going to show up for you as well. And they're going to be that person that sits in a row if you're speaking on stage and you say, who has the first question, or nobody asks, your friend's gonna be like, I have a question,
Right.
even though they
Yeah.
know you, right? They're gonna
Yeah.
help start that conversation. I think it's important too that if you are listening to us and that question was hard for you to answer and you didn't know, what truly your friends might say because you feel like you do so much and say yes to so many people, I would encourage you to listen to this next question that I want to ask
Uh-oh.
Lori. I know Lori's going to play along with me, so I'm not too worried about this. But the next question, one of the first things that when I work with my clients, they sometimes they struggle with, like we talked about earlier, like what's my inside, like what's that original thing I really want to do for myself, right? Because they do stand behind all these titles, they do stand behind the mental fitness saboteurs and judges that tell us we're not worthy, oh, you shouldn't get that award, like all those things that we allow to come into our brain. And so when I start coaching with my clients and we start working on that mental fitness saboteur and judge, one of the things that I love to do is have my clients write down what brings them joy, right? So usually it's 10. I'm just going to start with two for you with you right now, Lori. But if you don't mind, if you're open to playing along, I would love to get an example of what that looks like. So if I was to ask you today, Lori, tell me, we'll start with one thing for right now. Tell me one thing that brings you joy.
Being with my family, my immediate family, as well as my extended family. I love being around family. I love the Keeseys. Those are my people, and they're so much fun. And when we get together, it's always wild. And my kids and my husband, those things give me joy. And of course, my friends. We just got back from a massive road trip. We had to go up to Baltimore for my nephew's wedding, and it was just an amazing time. An amazing time. And then we go to Delaware and we see, my girlfriend, and then we go down to see Kevin's sister. It was just, yeah, friends and family.
Okay,
Those things bring me joy.
that's a great example. So you gave us some whys, but why being around them and why being at weddings and why having that feeling? Why is that important to you?
Because you can be your authentic self,
And why being your authentic self is so important to you?
because it's comfortable. If you're going out in the world and you're pretending you're someone you aren't, it's almost like you're telling a lie. And then you go, how do I respond? Just be yourself. And my family, we're just ourselves. We're really loud too. Oh boy. Very, very loud.
And so why being your original self and that authentic self? Why is it important to you at the end of the day when you put your head down on the pillow that you've done that in your life that day?
Because I haven't told a lie. If you're not your authentic self, again, you're basically you're a fraud. And no one wants to be a fraud. That kind of eats away at you, because people who behave in a way, they're like, well, that wasn't really my true self, They
Right.
they regret it in the end. Just be
Yeah.
yourself.
So
But you
so
should be polite too. I mean,
right.
people sometimes don't know how to be polite.
This is true. So I love that you share that, because if the listeners were listening, when Lori, when you first gave that example, you went right into your why before I even have to ask you why being around family, right? And then you let me dig you deeper, like, okay, being authentic self. So why should somebody be their authentic self? Because they show up originally who they're supposed to be. They're not being a fraud. They're not faking it to make it. All those things is what I got from you
Hmm.
on that one.
Yeah.
So
And also it also means that you should like yourself, right?
yes,
You
absolutely.
gotta like yourself. And if you're pretending you're someone you aren't, that means you don't like yourself.
Yeah.
And boy, that's quite a topic, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a
Mm.
very good topic. Okay, so
Hmm.
let's go to another one. What's another thing that brings you joy?
I'm a porch sitter.
Oh, so why sitting on the porch is important to you?
Because it's peaceful. I spend a lot of time here in the loft and I'm writing and what have you. And around 4 o'clock or so, you said, you know what? I'm done. I get up very early and I love sitting out. We have a awesome view of the mountains because we live in East Tennessee. And that too gives me peace. It's very quiet. You don't hear traffic. We live on a gravel road, except for, we have neighbors around. But yeah, that brings me joy.
So why having peace in your life? Why is that important to you?
Because my head races a million miles a minute all day long.
And
My head,
why is it important to not have your head race all day long?
because you need to rest it just like your body needs rest. Your head needs to rest too, or you're worthless the next day. Trust me, I know.
And
Nothing
so,
works
and I love that you're playing along with me. So why is rest important to you?
because you have a job to do. And if you're not rested, you won't get your job done. And I'm not talking little tasks. Oh, I have to clean the kitchen. Oh, that too, all that stuff is always there. But I don't know yet. We all have something really big we need to do. And if we're not rested or if our bodies are unwell, you know what it feels like when you're sick?
Mm-hmm.
You can't
Yeah.
do anything.
Right. So and those that are listening, what I got from Lori on that second question is that peace allows her mind to rest, allows her to do the things that she wants to do 100% and not feel like she's so tired and doesn't want to go even clean a kitchen. Right.
Yeah. Well, usually
Yeah.
that's the case though.
Yeah.
Even if I'm rested.
I love that you did that. Now, just imagine, Lori, when I work with my clients. So if you're listening to this and you've started writing notes, we only did two. One of the first things I do with my clients when I start coaching with them is I have them give me 10 of those, Lori. And I
Wow.
tell them, I'm like, listen, this is going to be the first big chunk of our job together, our work together, because I really want to get to that core of what makes you happy, right? And once we get the 10 done, then we look and we prioritize them, right? And so we start saying, which one's the most important of those 10 whys? And where are you showing up for those 10 whys? Then we score how you're showing up, right? Then we look at that PQ test that you took and we see where are those showing up? Where are the saboteurs and
Mm.
judges showing up and
Mm-hmm.
not allowing you to enjoy those
Mm-hmm.
whys, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that usually I tell everybody, I go, when they come start working with me, especially if they worked with a coach before, I'm like, well, why not that coach? And they'll tell me, because you're authentic, Pearl, you don't beat around the bush. You get right into the work, right? And so I tell them, listen, if you just give me a toe for a couple weeks, I promise you by the time you do 10 whys, you're going to have a foot out that box.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
and so the next thing we do, and Laura, I would love to play along with you a little bit more if you don't mind.
Oh, I don't mind.
All right. So the next thing we do is, so we've got our whys, but we create all these lists that we do in the world. We create our to-do list, our honey-do list. You name the list, we probably have a list, a
Mm-hmm.
grocery list, yada, yada. We don't often think about our not to-do list, the things I don't want to
Ooh,
do, right? So
that's
if you
good.
if you had to think, and again, I'm only going to ask you for three. When you
Oh
do the
dear.
homework and you coach with me, we're talking 10, but give me three things that would be on your not to-do list so that therefore you have time for your whys.
I wouldn't say yes to things I don't really want to do. And you know what they are. Someone says, could you do this? And you breathe in a huge breath there and no, I don't really want to do that. You gotta learn to say no.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's one. Things I really don't want to do. Hmm. Sometimes I don't want to leave the house. That's terrible. It's like I'm sitting up here on this ridge but, and sometimes I give into it, but I try not to do it too often because you become a hermit and that's not good. So that's another thing things I don't like to, sometimes I just don't want to go out into traffic. I don't want to deal and traffic around here is getting worse. I mean, it's like all these people are moving into Tennessee. The third things you don't want to do. Uh, right now, I know this is so silly. Right now, we're having company this weekend and I don't feel like cleaning the house. I really don't want to do that, but I have to do that. But
And
I know I'm not answering these very adequately,
no,
I'm sure.
but you're saying what's on your heart, and that's important for those that are listening too. You're what's first coming up for you, right? Is so the saying no. We do that often. We say yes to so many things, and it
Mm-hmm.
stops us from sitting on that porch outside where you're
Mm-hmm.
at, right? It stops
Mm-hmm.
us from doing something that we love to do, right? So saying no is so important, and we have to remember, those that are listening, no is a complete sentence and you can say it with a smile on your face. It's
Love
not
that,
something you
Paul.
should feel guilty about, right? And
Yeah.
so I make my clients practice saying no in a mirror with a smile on their face, right?
Uh-huh.
And so that's so important. And then leaving home, what I get from that is you don't want to be in the chaos, right? The
Right.
chaos keeps you from doing things that you like to do, whether it's writing, whether it's sitting on the front porch, whether it's spending time with your family, like what you said, right? If you're in that chaos of life and that traffic and all that, it's taking you away from doing the things you want to do because it takes time to go through traffic. It takes time to get to the store. All those things that are time suckers is what I got from that, right? Stay
Oh
away
my
from
goodness.
time suckers,
Yeah.
right?
I could add another one here. I could.
Go ahead, add it.
Social media.
Yes, another time sucker, right?
Oh my gosh. That's what prompted that. If
Yeah,
I didn't have to do it, I probably wouldn't.
right. Yeah. And then the other one was cleaning, right? Who wants to get up and have to clean? Again, those are things we have to do. Some people pass it out. Some people don't want to, put it out. Some people can't afford to have someone else do it. But so if you're listening and you are a mom with littles in the house, you don't have to do it all. Or if you're somebody who only has a partner, you don't have to do it all. And if you're a solo person living at home, it doesn't have to be done all at one time. So I'm going to break that down. If you are a family with littles at home, your littles can do something as simple as folding their laundry, even at 5 years old. I watched my sister-in-law teach my nephew how to fold laundry and put it away. She's like, it's not perfect. It's not how I would do it, but he's in the act of learning. We are a team in this home.
Ooh,
It's not
very good.
mom has to do everything.
Mm-hmm.
This house is a business and we are running it as a team, right? So that's so important. And then the other thing too is if you have a partner at home, you're not meant we're long past the generational thing of mom did everything, the wife did everything. We're long past that in our world today. There's no reason why it can't be a partnership and breaking down. Like my husband, since I've been with him, he does laundry.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He does the laundry. He not I would fold it. He'd make sure it got washed, right? We as a team, that's how it works for us. I don't do trash. Him and my boys knew I didn't take out trash. They take out trash. I would put the trash bag in the trash can. That's okay. I don't mind doing that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a team. And then if you're by yourself at home and you're listening, you don't have to do everything every day. Pick something for 1 hour a day and work on that and just kind of go through that routine and create that process for you because its life is important. And like you said, cleaning takes time away from doing the things you love to do. Some other things that could be on that list if you're listening to us is the negative self-talk. Like
Oh
telling
yeah.
yourself you're
Mm-hmm.
not worthy, right? Telling yourself you shouldn't have that. I don't have time for that, right? Those negative self-talks. The other thing that I always love to bring up too, Lori, is affirmations. Do you have your favorite affirmation?
I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Yes. So I love that. And I'm going to kind of like flip that a little bit for you, right? Because
Okay.
some people in today's world, some people may be doubting their faith, right? Maybe not
Mm-hmm.
sure where they're at, right? So
Mm-hmm.
somebody might take Lori's perfect example and say, I am going to look in the world today to allow Christ to come into my life because I don't know if I'm connected,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that might be another way that you can say it. It's also like somebody saying, I had a client one time and I build on this for my friend Kari. Her and I got talking about affirmations and how you stand in front of your mirror and you say, I have all the abundance in my bank account, right? And then you're like going, I got $20 and I can't pay my gas bill. How do I have abundance, right? So you're like, you're already telling your brain you don't believe it, right? But if
Right.
you can change your affirmations to start teaching your brain to look for the opportunities, right? So
Right.
like just recently, I want to have more income into my household and my husband's retired and there's some things we want to do, right? And we don't want to touch retirement. So one of the things that I started saying is, what things are out there that I can look for today that will bring abundance into my life? I've been
Mm-hmm.
doing that for 6 months. I just had something come across my desk. It came across me 6 months ago when I first started the affirmation, but I ignored it because I didn't know the person who was referring it to me. But then a friend of mine, Laura, when she started sharing about, I was like, Laura, are you doing it's a passive income thing. Are you
Mm-hmm.
doing this passive income thing? She's, oh my gosh, Pearl, I am doing it and it's going great for me. She's been able to bring some extra income into her world. I'm like, okay, since you're doing it, I've known you for so long. I know, like, and trust you. Let's talk. And so because of that affirmation of asking, that came across and I really listened, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if you're listening to us, I get sometimes affirmations. You're like, foo, I don't want to care about it, right? But if you can change how you're saying it so it becomes more believable for yourself, you can actually open doors
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
allow it to come in, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I got to tell you, I have someone I know who deeply depressed all the time. And one time I was talking with her and I said, "Which voice do you listen to?" She goes, "The only one who talks to me, the one who tells me I'm worthless." That broke my heart. That's you think these affirmations are nonsense. I completely and utterly disagree. I agree with you, Pearl. You have got to feed your brain and because your thought process will follow the same rut if you
Yeah,
let it. You
absolutely.
got to catch yourself. Wait a minute. Where did this thought come from? This
Yeah.
is not from a good place. This is from a dark place. This is from an evil place. And let me
Yeah.
tell you, there are a lot of force out there do want to achieve what you were designed to do. Fight it all the time. That's my advice.
I love that. Reminds me of Megan Trainor. She after she had her first child, um, she had shared that she went to a therapist, and I believe she didn't feel happy in her skin. She didn't feel
Hmm.
beautiful. And so her trainer said, her therapist said, "I want you to stand in front of the mirror naked, but I want you to stand about 6 feet away, 6 feet away, and I want you to find something beautiful about yourself." And she said for the first few weeks she couldn't find it. And then all of a sudden she's like, "Oh, that roll I have there on the side of my belly, that's because I had an amazing son," right? Like she started seeing those things. And I was like, I love that. And I
Hmm.
remember recently it came up again for me, that story for her. Probably about a month ago, I noticed I had like this little wrinkle on my left eye. And I was like, "Ooh, where'd that come up from?" And then I realized, I'm like, you know what? That's because all the tears I've been crying over the past however many months since
Hmm.
Matt's gone. That's where that's showing up,
Hmm.
and I embrace it. I think it's important that we, like you said, we listen to that voice. That's why I love doing my mental fitness coaching, because I love to take that negative thought that's like trying to overwhelm our brain, our worst enemy part of our brain, and flip it so you can find the best friend that's in your brain, because the best friend's in there. We just have to do some of the work, like what you helped me do today, Lori. You allowed me to share some of those things with others. And I love that what you're bringing forward into this world is you're bringing stories that can inspire and empower others to know that they're not alone, that
Right.
there's people out there that can help you. And if anybody gets anything from this podcast today, I hope that you do go read Lori's book. I hope that you get inspired. I know I've been reading it and it's really powerful. That's why I shared it with my community for the book club as well. And I hope that if you have a book club, that you do reach out to Lori. Everything will be in the show notes. But Lori, share with everybody before we get close, because I just looked at like, oh my gosh, we're almost done. It's been so much fun. But share with everybody how they can find you on social media, and we'll put it in the show notes as well. But if somebody really wants to write down right now, where do they find you at?
Well, the best place I think is to go to my website, lorikeesey.com. You can contact me. There's a contact button there. You can check out my past blog posts. I've written 2 short stories as well. They're available there. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and X. So but oh, and sign up for my monthly letter. I call that something to chew on. That's you just get one little letter from me every month. And I try to tell someone's story. It's not about me. I don't want to talk about me, but this month I will be talking about me because I'm talking about how I'm doing this trip that I never dreamed. Well, I always wanted to do, but never had the courage to do.
I think it's so much
So there
fun.
you go. That's the
Awesome.
best way to stay in touch with me. And when people write me, I do write back.
I love it. So we'll have that in the show notes as well. But Lori Keesey, and it's Keesey, if you're wondering how to spell that,
And
.com.
Lori,
And
Lori.
good job. I almost forgot that part. So okay, everybody knows that one of the things that we do here is I have my Better Questions, Better Life cards. These are not, I'm going to plug these cards all the time, because talking about mental fitness, these cards are powerful. I have half a deck here, half at my brother's house, because I'll be heading back there to visit them again. But um, I'm going to shuffle them, and there's 77 cards in the deck, and they're really powerful questions that you can meditate on, journal on. But Lori's going to tell me when to stop shuffling, and we're going to have her answer the question that we pull
Uh,
up. So here we go, Lori. Tell me when.
when
All right. So her question is, ooh, this is a good one. It's one of my favorites. What if my inner voice is right?
Oh, wow. Well, because I tried not to listen to the negative, I'm going to be one happy girl. Because sometimes you think, oh, if this happens, this happens. And then the little negative voice goes, you're fooling yourself. And they say, no, 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 no. I'm not listening to that. Not listening to you. This would be wonderful, you know? So there you go. I have good thoughts in my mind about where I want to be, what I want to do, for the time that will be allowed to stay here on earth. And I hope it all comes to pass. I want
I,
to make a difference. So
what was that?
I do want to make a difference. I want to make
Oh,
a
yes.
difference.
Absolutely. I think everybody, needs to remember we have to make a difference in this world. And even you should be answering that question, because it's so powerful. I have the honor of coaching for a nonprofit for these amazing ladies who are in between homelessness or they're leaving difficult
Hmm.
situations. And I get to go over once a month and coach with them in person or talk to them online. And one of the things I always tell them too, and if you're listening to us, it's really important to remember this, and that is, what can you do to pour into somebody else? Like I tell the ladies, as you leave the
Hmm.
house, as you bounce forward from the home and you go into your own place, and leave a note on the pillow for that lady who's going to come put her head down in
Hmm.
that same pillow in that same bed you've been in, getting some respite, getting some help, and, pour into that person, because it's so, so important that we show as much love we can to the other person, because sometimes your words are all they're going to hear.
That's
And
right. And it's our highest calling. It's one of
yep,
the things we are supposed to do. We are supposed to help others.
yeah,
We're
absolutely.
not meant to be isolated. And that's why sometimes, like sometimes I don't want to go out into the chaos. Well, the world's chaotic. You need to get out there, girl.
Absolutely. Well, this has
So,
been so, so much fun. I've had a blast. And for those that are wondering if you took notes and didn't hear before and you want to learn about that quiz, I'm going to share it with you again. It's pearlssurvey.com. That's two S's in there. So pearlssurvey.com/PQQIZ, PQ quiz. Go take it, be encouraged. And I just want to remind you that you come into this world, you are a little rough on the outside. That oyster is needing some care and some love. And as you open that oyster with some love, you will find your inner pearl of greatness. And I hope you go out today and you find your inner pearl of greatness. Have an amazing day. And thanks for being the shiro you are.